Tell me about the first time you ever were moving your body ecstatically and realized it was a spiritual experience for you.
So the first time that happened was with my sister, Ariel, aka Rabbi Ima, at the ecstatic dance up in San Francisco, I think in Oakland, one of the, if not the OG ecstatic dance site.
Mm-hmm. So this would be like 10 plus years ago.
Yes. Whenever y'all were living there.
Yeah.
And I had this chakra juice that opened all my chakras, and then we were just kind of tooling around, and I'd never danced or seen people dance in such an open, free, objectiveless way before. Mm-hmm. And at one point, and she's really helping me get into it, she took my arms and my limbs and she started dancing me like a puppet. And I really felt like in my joints, even the articulation of being a puppet. And I felt that sense of surrender into her holding me and her dancing me as she wished. And that, it felt really connected.
So connected is a good word for what I just heard you describe, because there was a lot of other people stuff going on in it. You said that you were looking around, you saw people moving in a way you'd never seen them moving before. And then you're like in this physical interaction with your sister, with that sort of like transcending your individual boundaries of movement. Is that the thing that was different about this experience from other dance that you had done before? Like the other people thing, the connection part?
I mean, the only dance I'd ever done before was just like drunk in a club.
Sure.
I'd never had the experience of dancing for anything other than almost like a display of enjoyment, rather, or, some kind of mating ritual. But yeah, I'm glad I had her to ground me into the practice there, because it is very easy to see everyone else dancing and kind of other the self when you first go to an ecstatic, since it's such it's so different from what most people have experienced with dance, so different from what I experienced.
Can you tell me more about like how the space and the music and the invitation to even come to the event at all, like set that up? Like what kind of sacred space is created to make that possible?
Well, I can't really speak to that one in particular. So many years ago, and I only went once to that space. I mean, I think just the aesthetics of it were really nice and is in a beautiful spot. But for the one that then became my home dance in Los Angeles when I lived there, that space was set up with a lot of intentionality. I mean, there was literally places where people could write their intentions and hang them up on a communal board and then read through each other's intentions before the dance. There was always some kind of opening ceremony or activity that we would do. Like one in particular I really remember and enjoyed was where we practiced saying no to people when they wanted to dance with us.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, and I had a lot of trouble with it. So one of the instructors actually especially took me aside and had me shove him repeatedly away while screaming no.
I was going to ask you if there were like ground rules that were part of it that shaped that, and it sounds like it was even more than that. It was like communal practices.
Yes, but yes, the rules were very important too.
Yeah.
And the container in LA was really tight. So there were norms about, sobriety, there were norms about consent, there were norms about picture taking, all of which were really strongly stated at the beginning of every dance and also enforced by the community itself. And at first I was like very offended when I, was talking on the dance floor and someone came up to me and shh. Because I wanted to connect, but the whole point, and I think the knowledge, wisdom of that community was that you were there to connect with yourself first. And that was really, and if you wanted to connect with someone else, you can, that you don't have to talk about it. You could just dance about it.
How long did it take you to adjust to that as like a thing that you believed in and wanted to experience?
Oh man. The norms of the community, I mean, I'm very good at towing the line because I'm so very afraid of being in trouble. So it didn't take long. Yeah. But in terms of getting used to it, like what becomes salient for me there was that it took me about 7 or 8 dances, full dances, and these are 4-hour dances, like opening ceremony and closing included. It took me about 8 of them just to be able to open my eyes and
Wow.
dance with my eyes open.
Wow.
Yeah.
Over how many days or weeks was that?
It was weekly, the dance, so not 8 consecutive weeks, but I would say I went pretty regularly.
But that's still like kind of a long time, like a couple months of your
Yeah.
life of unfolding into that before even opening your eyes.
Yeah, I mean, and in the first just 3 or 4 dances, I would find the loudest speaker and I would stand directly in front of it and face away from everyone face to the speaker, or face in the direction where I had the least witnesses, and then dance in a very tight little box with my eyes closed. And that was what I needed to like feel safe.
What was it about the music at that dance that gave you the permission to do that?
Just sensory overload. Like it would bring me back in the same way of Ariel holding me, dancing me like a puppet was kind of in the way that when you hold a cup of warm tea, you know you're holding it. The heat is there. You can come back to the sensation and breathe in the smell. So the music anchored me.
What else did you have going on in your life at the time that you incorporated this into your life that felt like spirituality to you, if anything?
I was doing some meditation, some chakra meditation, which I just, bought a book at a bookstore about. I was definitely embedded with you and Ariel, learning about your spiritual realities and, kind of gleaning and borrowing from that. But I was like 1 foot in, 1 foot out of that. Not much. Really, this was my doorway. This was what opened my everything to spiritual practice.
So I don't mean to like steer the conversation away from this practice, but I know that you do a lot more other kinds of practice now.
Yeah.
What about this opened the door to those other things?
Thanks for that question.
Of course. That's what I'm here for.
I think it was a combination of the channeling and the witnessing, or the being witnessed, the two-way witnessing. The channeling was simply like embodiment, presence, present moment embodiment, where if I was back with the music, if I was not paying attention, it somehow became more obvious to me. And when I sit and meditate, sometimes I can wander off for minutes at a time without even realizing I've lost the thread. But the music is, constantly going, constantly changing and moving. And even if it's not changing or moving, it's resonating. It has a presence. And so it was like my key to unlocking the connection between embodiment and the present moment, and then the community aspect. I really wanted to be seen. Like even when I was in the corner dancing with my eyes closed, like I secretly wanted everyone to think that I was just so good at dancing or being spiritual and getting in touch with myself. Like, yeah, I wanted that. But it was so scary to witness others and to notice sometimes when I had a reaction where I didn't feel comfortable with what I was seeing, or I thought they were quote unquote dancing badly, I would then extrapolate that judgment back onto myself. And I mean, even on an energetic level, like as soon as you're looking in someone's eyes, if you're dancing, it can be very, I can only speak for myself. If I'm looking in someone's eyes and I'm dancing, it can be very hard to stay with my experience. But so beautiful. And then there were these times when I would just fall into flow with people. Oh my God, this one man, we just planetary bodies just looping around each other. It was the first time I had ever really co-created a dance with someone instead of like uncomfortably moving the way that they were moving and then running away as soon as I could. And we were just constantly flipping our perspective, like looking at each other upside down, shifting our positions, twining in and out and over each other. And by the time we were done, it felt like something had unlocked. And we never saw each other again.
How did you close that interaction at the time with him?
We hugged about it.
Yeah.
Well, we meditated in the closing circle next to each other. And then we had a talk where he told me that had healed something in him from his mother spirit. This like wounded, this mother wound that he had had. And I told him that it had healed for me a wound of connection with male-bodied people. Because I really felt seen and I felt seeing at the same time. And yeah, we talked about it and then we departed.
So it seems like you get a lot done in this practice. It's like spiritually, like it's a very like cross-modal, like layered, complex, not like mentally complex, but like intricate thing that's happening. Is that part of the reason why it's so important to you to this day? Like even with all you like you've had this flowering of practices, but like this is still like a core thing for you, right?
Oh yeah. This is my synagogue,
Right.
you know, this
Yeah.
is where I go to pray.
Yeah. And so does that have to do with why? Is it just like so much of the practice at this point in like one activity?
I've never thought about it.
It's probably a good sign.
It just helps me feel real and present. And if I have something I'm holding on to and I might not even know what that is, I know I can like dance it out in that space, both because there is complete freedom and because there is containment within a group of people who recognize the work and who do their own deep work.
So you can like bring things to it even unconsciously, as opposed to having to have it like figured out as something you're working on, like in
Right.
a therapeutic modality or something.
Yeah. And if it's something I'm working on, I can bring that too,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And
Yeah.
I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's free permission to stim in whatever way I want to. And I always want to shake. Like I want to be shaking all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if that's a spiritual practice, but it sure feels good.
I would say so. I mean, so like one of the things it's like my kind of favorite or like ultimate question I always have for people is like how and why they assemble the sort of portfolio of things they do as a regular practice. And like I mean, I feel like you've already sort of like fully explained why this practice is important to you. Why don't you make your entire life about this and just like go from dance to dance? Like, why are there other lineages and practices in your life?
Well, when you said, why don't you make your life about this and
You were
go,
like,
I was
okay,
like,
I'm
okay,
gonna
I'm
do
going to goodbye.
Yeah.
I am thinking about becoming much more involved, especially since I've recently discovered a new modality, well, new for me, called 5 Rhythms.
I've heard of it, but I don't know what that is. Can you explain?
It's like a more contained ecstatic. It has 5 rhythms of movement, types that you go through. The first being flow, where you can't see me, but you flow.
Yeah.
It's pretty. And then staccato, where you express outwards, kind of quick, abrupt, outward expressing movements. Then chaos, where you just let it flop. And then lyrical, which is kind of a combination of the former 3, and then stillness. So it has a nice, just, wave to it. I can't always shake. I mean, part of the limitation is access. Like if there were an ecstatic every week, like there were back in LA, I would be going every week. If there were an ecstatic every day, I'd be going every day.
Yeah.
Every day. So it's access,
It's like a big thing to put on.
It is. It's a thing. And you have to have the music created and everything. But I dance on my own every day.
Yeah.
But it's different without the other people and the intentionality of that space.
So when you say you want to get more involved, what does that entail?
Yeah, doing a teacher training is my new thing I'm playing with in my mind, seeing how that would feel and how that would be, and I'm very drawn to that.
Okay, so does that lead you to being sort of the MC at an existing dance, and then on to starting your own or something? Is that the kind of trajectory you're thinking about?
I'm just hungry for those yummy modalities. I just want to know, I don't know what I want to do with it. I just know I want to understand more about, what's possible when we use the body as an instrument, as an expressive instrument of whatever is occurring internally. When I do that, when I use my physicality to show something that's true for me, it becomes real in a way that it doesn't when I'm simply sitting there thinking about it, feeling it. So, but I want to answer your question because it's a good, why do I still do other things if I love dancing so much? Meditation is a beautiful counterbalance to dancing. And I meditate in the Chan lineage, as you know, practice in that lineage with a teacher, Guagu in Tallahassee. Shout out to him. And he really helped me unlock the capacity for relaxation in my body, which it's necessary to ground that chaotic dance movement energy. I so that something can grow out of that, you need to have a stability to return to, or I need that.
Yeah. That's similar to how I would answer it, given that, like my equivalent, I would say, of your dance practice is the Qigong practice that I have learned sort of on the side from my main Zen lineage. But, obviously there's a lot of support for that practice in my Sangha. And I've come to really just experience the modes of practice as like different speeds of movement that like nothing is really like still, there's all kinds of you probably have them in your lineage too. Like poems that are entirely like about the paradoxical, like non-existence of movement or stillness. Like, and so like, getting like really developed in a movement practice helped me understand that sitting is moving. And so then it was more like moving at different speeds has different sort of perceptual effects, works on different layers. And then the breath would be the other big piece of it. Like, do you work with the breath really explicitly in your sitting practice? And then like, how does breathing work in dance?
That's a great question. I do work with the breath, but that's kind of a more recent thing for me. Since the last year, I, had a traumatic incident which created a need for grounding much more so in my practice. I couldn't explore my typical modality, which was using the Huatou. My typical method was inquiry, asking, a question meant to kind of bring up this spirituality, this groundlessness, this big-headedness, this what is the universe and everything in life. But I needed to be like, okay, what is happening in my body right now for about a year to really kind of stabilize. And ultimately, I'm just now getting okay at noticing that I'm actually breathing all the time. So I wanted to bring it into my dance a lot more. And it's something that I actually really noticed the last dance, that there was a synchronicity between the movement and the breath. But it's a beautiful invitation to combine those practices, and I want to go there. So
what was different about this dance, like somatically, that you noticed that in a new way? Like how did that come into your attention?
Just every time I dance, I mask less and less. And so I was like, and have been just like grimacing and like drooling and gritting my teeth and just really like doing whatever the heck this animal body wants to do. And as soon as I was allowing that to simply flow through me, I was noticing all of the aspects of flow.